Hello. Welcome to tonight's bedtime story by Lucid Tales. I hope your day has been kind and full of love, but whether it has been clear skies or boiling storm clouds for you, it's time to relax now. Find somewhere comfortable, maybe your bed or a favourite armchair, and make sure you're ready for sleep. Don't forget to brush your teeth. Take your shoes off if you can, and feel the freedom in your toes, the little loosening that means it's time for bed. Tonight's story is The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Once upon a time, there was a great emperor who ruled over an empire so vast that the sun never set upon it. But the emperor, like many in his government, had no interest in the wars besieging his borders, the plague that ravaged his country, or the rebellious peasants demanding for change, or the impending climate crisis that could doom them all. The emperor was only interested in clothes and Brexit. This emperor was so fond of clothes that it was more common to hear, "The emperor is in his wardrobe," than "The emperor is in council." He would spend all day with his closest ministers, dressing up and talking of the latest fashions, which he of course frequently set. There was a question he would ask, with every outfit. Do you know it? "Does my butt look big in this?" And all of his advisers and ministers would reply, "Oh yes, your majesty, you look glorious, magnificent, regal." Many tailors came from far and wide to make clothes for the emperor, and with every new outfit would come the question again, "Does my butt look big in this?" He hoarded doublets and breeches and hats and shirts and fine gilded capes, while his people coughed and sweated and grew threadbare in a world growing hot with war and coal and plagued by strange new illnesses. One day, two swindlers, two false tailors, came to the palace and declared that they could make the emperor a new garment so finely woven and richly gilded that it would be invisible to any but those who were pure of heart and worthy of their position. The egotistical emperor and his ministers, of course, were very excited by this prospect. Why, they could discover who among them was truly noble and deserving of their station. And so the tailors started their work. Great looms were set up in the highest rooms of the palace tower, and they sent for the finest threads and richest silks to begin their work, all the while clacking shuttles on empty looms, squirreling the expensive materials away in their pockets and pretending to weave the majestic cloth. After some time, the emperor grew curious and impatient, but, nervous about whether he might himself be unworthy of seeing this marvellous fabric, he sent his prime minister to check on the progress. The swindlers ushered the prime minister into the weaving room and pretended to show him the fabulous cloth they were weaving. He was too ashamed to admit that he could not see the fabric himself, and so out of shame and pride, which are two sides of the same coin, exclaimed, "Why, what a beautiful weave!" "Note the glorious colours," said the weavers. "Yes, yes," said the prime minister, "it is beautiful beyond belief." And that is just what he told to the emperor when he returned to report. Some time later, the emperor grew impatient and curious again, but still not enough to face his fear of his own unworthiness. And so he sent his closest adviser to view the progress of his magnificent garment. "Welcome, welcome," said the false weavers. "Come and see how fine the stitches, how neat the seams." And to the adviser's horror, they removed a great canvas from over an empty mannequin. "Why, yes," said the adviser. "See how it hangs. I'm sure His Majesty will be pleased." And on her return she told the emperor that the garment was gorgeous beyond words. Several more months rolled by, and at last the emperor could wait no longer. He hurried to the sewing room to view his gorgeous, beautiful, majestic garment. "Your Majesty," cried the weavers, "you were just in time. Come and see your beautiful new outfit." The Emperor stared in dread at the mannequin, for could it be that both his Prime Minister and advisor could be worthy of their positions, but not the Emperor himself? Shamed and prideful, the Emperor nodded sickly and said in a hearty voice, "It is majestic beyond words. I must try it on at once." And so the swindlers pretended to dress the Emperor in his new garment, pulling imaginary sleeves over hands, an invisible neckline over his head, and tying a fantastical knot to attach his mythical train. "What do you think?" the Emperor asked then. "Does my bat look big in this?" "Fabulous, beautiful, majestic and powerful," chorused the Prime Minister and the advisor. "Should I wear it on my parade today?" "Absolutely, oh, beyond question." And so they joined the procession and paraded into town, with the Emperor in his fantastic new clothes, naked as the day he was born. Now the villagers had heard of this magical fabric in the Emperor's new wardrobe, and so they all cheered and declared it beautiful. So nervous were they that their neighbours would know that they couldn't see it, that they were unworthy. But then they walked past a bridge, where the peasant rebels were protesting and singing, their mouths hidden behind masks, but still making sweet music. Some things are worth the risk. As the Emperor went past, the music quieted to a whisper, then silence. The royal procession stared at the protesters. The protesters stared at the royal procession. Then, in the silence, the voice of a small child fluted high and clear. "Mummy, why hasn't the Emperor got any clothes on?" And the laughter started on the bridge and rang through the town, as the people realized it had all been a great trick, and the peals of laughter chased the naked Emperor and his advisor and his minister back to his rooms, where they hid for days and did not dare to come out. And while they were hiding, the people quietly planted trees and flowers, tore down statues, made great pots of food for sharing, and sang as they changed the world one leaf at a time, one belly at a time, one heart at a time. And by the time the Emperor dared to show his face, he knew he could no longer live surrounded by clothes and imaginary tales of grandeur, and that it was time for him to pay attention to what was in front of him, the needs of his people, his country, and his climate. He came out a changed man, and never again did he let his pride stand before his duties. If only it was always so easy to change a ruler's soul. But there is always hope, my loves. Things will change. Now good night. Sleep well, and I will see you tomorrow for another bedtime story.